The Secrets of Star Trek is brought to you by the Star Quest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to The Secrets of Star Trek, episode 96.
Captain to bridge.
Spock here.
Make it so. Surrender is not an option.
Attention crew of the Enterprise, this is James Kirk.
We are all explorers, driven to know what's over the horizon, what's beyond our own shores.
We would have helped you get home if you had asked. That's who Starfleet is.
Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Star Trek, where we discuss the hidden layers and deeper meanings found in all the Star Trek TV, series, movies, and more. And today we're discussing the first season Star Trek Discovery episode, Lethe. And joining me today on the panel is Jimmy Aiken. Hi, Jimmy.
Howdy, Dom.
Father Corey couldn't be with us this week, so it's just going to be the two of us. Folks, if you would kindly remember to like The Secrets of Star Trek on Facebook, on our Facebook page, where we're facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, and retweet us on Twitter, where we're at SQPN, and leave comments on those posts, and all those things help us to boost the social media algorithm and get these the shows out in front of the people who've actually asked to be notified when they're out there. So we would really greatly appreciate that. So we're talking about this episode. We're moving through the episodes of the first season of Star Trek Discovery one at a time, and we're up to the 6th episode called Lethe. Jimmy, what does the word Lethe mean? Is that Latin?
Greek. And it's interesting, for once we have a title that's just one word in Star Trek first season Discovery. I mean, normally we get something like, "The lamb's knot cries for the butcher's choice of his pain to drive the maddest sane," or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, so Lethe is a Greek word, and it means forgetfulness. It also can mean oblivion or concealment, and it's one of the 5 rivers in Hades.
Okay.
So, like, when you're in the afterlife, you can drink from the river Lethe and forget what happened on Earth and stuff. And in thinking about the title, I mean, obviously, in hindsight, this is an Ash Tyler-centric episode.
Yes.
And he doesn't know it, but, and spoilers, and this is an old show, but he is a sleeper agent. He's forgotten his previous life as a Klingon.
Right.
But also, in a more straightforward way, Sarek seems to be having forgetfulness and be in oblivion and is hiding things in his memory from Michael. And so he might be part of the forgetfulness or oblivion as well.
That probably, yeah. I'm thinking most fans assumed when they first saw this that the forgetfulness was the forgetfulness of Sarek, but there's a few people in here who have bringing up memories from the past and that forget things. We could say that Lorca also has some lost memories because he doesn't have them in the first place because he's not the Lorca we think he is.
Right, and also when this episode first aired, as I know I talked about this in a previous podcast, but I thought that the Lethe was Admiral Cornwell because she looks strikingly like a character that appears in Star Trek the original series, who is like her, not only looks like her, but is a psychiatrist who has had something traumatic happen to her and has forgotten it on purpose, and so is like going by the name Lethe.
Right. But
it turns out not to be her, because the traumatic thing that ends up happening to Admiral Cornwell eventually is death. So it wasn't the same psychiatrist that looks strikingly like this.
Well, that's an actually interesting point. Is Cornwell was supposed to die at the end of this episode. That was the original plan for her character, and they changed it to being captured. And I think that's interesting, and it's a slightly more interesting character arc and plot arc for the season, because it means that she's still out there. I think we get the sense, and I'm kind of jumping ahead here, is that Lorca sort of engineers her capture.
Yes. Oh, very clearly.
Yeah. And and that's because she was onto him.
Yep.
As we later find out. And so having her still out there coming back creates this plot tension, this thing tickle in the back of our mind that she's out there ready to come back and reveal that Lorca isn't who he says he is. So I prefer that ending for her than just having her be killed by the Klingons at the end of this episode.
Yeah.
So let's jump back to the beginning of the episode and talk about how it starts. It starts with a view of a Vulcan city and Sarek going on a diplomatic mission. I like that the design of the Vulcan designs they've got in this series. Mm-hmm. They've really, I think, of all the things that they've changed, the one thing they really haven't changed that much is what Vulcan sort of looks like. And they've updated it. We have Vulcan plants now, mm-hmm. Which we did before. But that's kind of nice. And so he goes on this diplomatic mission with his aide
to the Cancri system. Right. And it's like, how interesting. I would never have guessed that in the constellation of Cancer, there is only one system. Apparently, all of the other stars in Cancer don't have any planets. So there's just one system you can refer to as the Cancri system.
Right. Well, maybe not every star has planets, I guess.
Most of them do.
Yeah, right. So we see just him going on this mission. Then we flip to Discovery, and we have this scene of Burnham and Tilly jogging through the corridors, and Burnham has become this mentor to help Tilly become a Starfleet captain.
And she's micromanaging her diet.
Right. Well, one thing that's interesting with this jogging thing is because they had so little set of hallway, it took them 8 hours to film this scene of jogging because they only had enough hallway for 10 seconds of dialogue. So they had to keep resetting every 10 seconds. I just thought that was hysterical. They must have been exhausted after all that jogging all day long. But yes, they go to. I also like the micromanaging of the diet. I agree with Burnham, by the way. Roasted tomato salsa is great, and I do love the fact that it is a good source of lycopene or whatever that was.
I'm fine with that. What I don't like is the weird way the replicator is like trying to upsell everything it gives you. I mean, it's like 2 delicious breakfast burritos and a healthy and nutritious this or that. It's like, stop upselling me. Right. I just want to go Alexa settings, turn off upsell.
Right. It was. I don't want my food processor to be telling me whether I'm eating a healthy meal or not. I'm a grown up. I can figure it out, and I'm guessing most of these Starfleet officers can figure it out too. Then we have Lorca and Ash Tyler, who recently released from Klingon prison for 8 months, as far as we know, running a battle simulation on a holodeck, and Lorca talks about checking out Tyler's background here. Do you think I'd be letting you play with these toys, meaning phasers, if I didn't? Well, evidently you didn't do a good enough job.
Yeah, he also, though, he's a little surreptitious about it. I mean, before he makes that reveal, he's asking him questions about his background, and he says, like, "So where are you from?" "Oh, I'm from near Seattle, or I'm from Seattle." And then he later comes back with, actually, you're from this tiny little town that's near Seattle, but not in Seattle. Yeah, I checked you out.
Yeah, I think that's nitpicky. I don't actually live in Boston, but if I'm on the other side of the galaxy and someone asks where I'm from, I say I'm from Boston.
Yeah,
same. I don't live. Yeah.
Same thing with me in San Diego. I'm not actually in the city limits of San Diego, but in the greater metropolitan area.
Well, because it's kind of pedantic to say, I live in Holbrook, Massachusetts, which is where? Like, I don't care. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. But so when Lorca offers Tyler the job as security chief, because remember, the last security chief met an untimely end at the tardigrades clause, he notes that Tyler fights like a Klingon, which I think is very interesting. A little bit of the writers revealing a little bit to us there. It's all right there for us to find, but we don't see it at the time.
Also, it's just, how prudent is it to take this guy you just broke out of prison with and make him your security chief?
Which is the problem that Cornwell brings up, right?
Yeah.
It's very interesting. On by the way, the most important ship in Starfleet, the key to defeating the Klingons in the war.
Yeah,
your security chief. Yeah, Lorca is not making prudent moves. Back to Sarek and his aide on the ship. It turns out that the aide is a Vulcan logic extremist, as we've seen them before, who has turned himself into a bomb. Which is a very interesting thing.
So he injects himself in his arm, which starts glowing, and then the glow starts spreading to the rest of his body as he's monologuing about how we need to disentangle ourselves from humans. And Sarek is wasting time not beaming him out. And that's the whole reason Sarek's shuttle gets damaged and his life is endangered, because he just listens to this monologuing instead of doing the obvious thing and getting rid of this guy before he can detonate.
He puts a shield up around him, but apparently the shield is not sufficient to contain the blast. But yeah, I guess the Vulcan logic extremists are for FedExit instead of Brexit. FedExit. Sorry, little pun there. But yeah, they're anti-Federation. It's the same sort of people who are against Sarek, taking in Burnham and
vaccines and stuff like that. Yeah,
right. So that sets up the major A plot for this episode, which is saving Sarek. Meanwhile, we have Tyler and Tilly. Burnham and Tilly in the cafeteria. They see Ash Tyler there. Tilly's all ooh, who's the new hottie? And then they go over, and
Tilly's like playing matchmaker between Burnham and Ash, who looks like a grown-up Wesley, like a suntan. I was really struck. He looks like Wesley Crusher, all grown up with a suntan.
Right, that's right. He kind of does. But before too much can happen here, Michael collapses.
Has a Katra attack.
Yes, when the Katra attacks, and she collapses, and she has this long distance mind meld with Sarek, and goes back in her memory, or his memory, I think it is actually. Yeah, but to an event where they both were.
At Vulcan graduation day.
Yeah. And it's a moment when she thinks she failed. So she wasn't selected for something called the Vulcan Expeditionary Group. I'm not sure if we've ever been told what that is, but maybe it's some sort of...
it's a kind of, Vulcan Expeditionary Group, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Logically, that would be the case.
Yeah.
But... what we'll eventually learn is that Sarek had wanted her and Spock to be selected for it, but then it turns out they would only take one not full Vulcan for the job, so he torpedoed her application in favor of Spock, but then, of course, Spock spurned that and went off to Starfleet.
So Sarek feels like a total failure as a result of that, because he did have a chance to get one of his kids into this program and he blew it.
Right. And now there's a little bit of guilt here for he hurt Burnham unnecessarily even. Meanwhile, she spent all this time thinking she's the one who failed and disappointed him, which, Sarek is not Father of the Year at this point.
Yeah.
So
he does get to redeem himself, though, in to some degree in The Search for Spock, where he gets Spock's Katra reunited. And this episode, with dealing with Surak's Katra and long distance stuff and who's got a piece of the Katra, because Michael does. After the initial explosion, when she was a child, he had used his Katra to heal her, and so she carries a piece of his Katra, which is why she can have this long distance force chat with him.
Right.
And that also sets up The Search for Spock, where we have someone with someone else's Katra and they can be reunited.
You said something. You said the long distance force chat.
Yeah,
this has an uncanny resemblance to things that happen in the latest Star Wars movies, which we're now I think about 4 months removed from it. So that's about enough time for spoilers free. But if you haven't seen it yet and you don't want it spoiled, skip ahead about 2-3 minutes. But where both Rey and Kylo Ren have long distance force chats, and they can pass healing back and forth. They can pass life force to heal each other. So it is kind of interesting, the synchronicity between these shows. Star Trek Discovery did it first, although I think the force chat came first in Star Wars.
Yeah, because that was in Episode 8. That was a couple years ago.
Yeah, so although that might have been
this was maybe around the same time.
Yeah, 2017. So yeah, it's very interesting. Anyway, wonder if they talk. But so Burnham wakes up.
Yeah, because Sarek like totally bans her from the Force Chat channel.
Yeah, he like blasts her out of it physically in the memory. She wakes up and tells how he shared the Katra with her, and they find out that from Starfleet that Sarek was on his way to a meeting with the heads of 2 Klingon houses who want to help end the war. So it's a sort of peace talks that Sarek was heading to.
Oh, those Vulcans, they do like their peace talks.
They do. And Lorca is ordered by Starfleet Command to not go anywhere near it, that the Starfleet will send, a ship.
For reasons.
For reasons, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's the most important ship in all of Starfleet, blah, 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 blah. We can't risk it. Well, Lorca disobeys. He just goes. Anyway.
Oh, he totally disobeys the Vulcan admiral to his face. It's like,
Yeah.
tell the Vulcans I'm on my way. Bye.
And why? Because Burnham asked him to. We're starting to see like how Lorca it favors Burnham. Like he wants to do anything he can to make her happy, to keep her happy. And it doesn't make any sense until we find out what the relationship is between Lorca and Burnham in the Mirror Universe. And so he's kind of carried some of that over to this woman who's not his Burnham.
Right.
So it's very interesting. We get a nice moment with Stamets, who is suddenly, this is the Stamets personality change. He's all groovy now. He's no longer that snarky jerk he was. And his mind is blown by the idea of a mental link among all consciousness. And he's kind of going on like he's been smoking something for a little bit with his buddies.
The plan is, though, he's going to build a neural mind thingy to augment the mind meld that Michael has with Sarek so she can wake him up and he can turn on the transponder of his shuttle and we can find him.
Right.
And you might say, well, shouldn't the transponder be active already? And shouldn't it, like, even if it's turned off, shouldn't it activate, upon a problem with the shuttle, like an explosion inside of it? And the answers normally would be yes. But remember, secret diplomatic mission.
That's true.
The secret part is why you want to turn that transponder thing off and not and interrupt its normal activation protocols.
Right. That's true. Right. And they're stuck in some kind of nebula because, you have to be stuck in a nebula.
Yeah.
Which makes you hard to find. So Burnham has to go out in a shuttle with Ash Tyler and Tilly into the nebula to establish this boosted mind meld.
Hey, teen gang.
Right. And Lorca tells Tyler, bring Burnham back unscratched or don't come back at all. Which is, okay, I guess I'll bring her back then. Then we have Lorca in his quarters. He gets a call from Cornwell, but before he does, he's looking at this multicolored holographic display that we're going to see several times in this season. And what we'll find out is this is a display of the parallel universes, of the mirror universe and our universe that he's looking at. He's apparently trying to figure out how he's going to get back or whatever. And so, again, another one of these instances where the producers are just kind of throwing the clues out in front of us, waiting for us to go back and watch it again and go, oh, that's what that was.
Yeah.
So we'll see there. But Cornwell gives him a call, and she's mad that he launched an unauthorized rescue mission using a convicted mutineer and a POW who's just returned from prison. And Lorca vouches for Tyler again, which is, again, a bad idea.
Yeah. She's also generally, she's not just mad at him because he's doing this imprudent stuff. She's also worried for him because it turns out they're old buds and apparently used to be boyfriend and girlfriend. And she's genuinely concerned about what's happening with him and his career and his mental stability in this war.
Right. Yeah, he's acting out of character ever since the incident where his ship was destroyed and he was the only survivor.
Right.
Except as we'll find out.
And there's a reason why that was the point at which he started acting differently, because that's when Mirror Lorca crossed over into our universe.
Right. Exactly. So Burnham goes back into Sarek's memories again, and
they totally matrix on each other.
Yeah. Well, before they do that, we see Amanda that gives Michael a copy of Alice in Wonderland, which is a book that will be important in the second season when we're looking for Spock, who's having his dissociative
Identity disorder.
Yeah, or whatever whatever we want to call what
You're
he's
not
doing.
the real Spock. You're the mastermind.
Right. And they start fighting Vulcan style, which is kind of fun, and until Tilly pulls Michael out.
Yeah, by the way, the nebula seems to be made of colored Christmas tinsel rather than gas.
I noticed that.
It's all these little fragments. It looks like someone really just took a shredder, like Wolverine was opening his Christmas presents one morning and threw all this stuff out into space.
Yeah, it looks more like the wormhole of the prophets than it does like a nebula, but nebula are just things out in space. We just have to, whatever the producers think to show us they are, that's what we have to accept. So in Sarek's memory, Burnham goes back in again. Sarek now admits to Burnham that he failed her, and in his memory they meld, but they're melding inside the mind meld. I thought was interesting.
Meta.
You're gonna invert the Matrix, and everything's gonna be all messed up. Then, so we have this admission of his failure to her, and she's trying to convince him that to come back anyway. Cornwell and Lorca, as you say, they used to be boyfriend and girlfriend. They kind of rekindle the romance.
Which is a total distraction on Lorca's part. I mean, it's like Cornwell's getting too close to the truth, so let's seduce her to change the topic.
Right. But what happens is he falls asleep. She sees an unfamiliar scar on him. Like, where'd that one come from? He wakes up.
She touches it. And
she touches it. Yeah. And then he pulls a phaser on her. He jumps on top of her, is about to kill her. Like, which is a standard mirror universe response to being woken up by someone.
Someone touching your scars while you're asleep. Yeah.
Yeah. Not in this one. And she freaks out justifiably. And she says, here's the line: "The truth is, you're not the man you used to be." And he thinks to himself, you ain't kidding, lady.
Yeah, you're the mastermind.
Right. So Lorca then tells Cornwell, well, Sarek can't make that meeting. Maybe you should go to that meeting instead. You're the perfect person to go instead of him. Hint, hint, wink, wink.
She also points out to him that he must have been lying on his psych evaluations and lied so brilliantly he told everybody what they wanted to hear.
Right.
And so he fooled everybody, but she's going to have the discovery taken away from him.
Right.
And he's like, this ship is all I have. I can't lose it. So please don't do that.
And what he's really thinking is, this ship is my ticket back home. I can't let you take it away from me. So he's the one.
By this point, they've rescued Sarek,
right,
after some various things, including a suggestion from Ash Tyler that, because initially Burnham is broken up about the fact that Sarek is focusing on graduation day, where, as far as she knows, she failed to make the cut to get into the Vulcan Expeditionary Group. So his dying thoughts are on her failure.
Right.
And Ash Tyler, back in the shuttle, says, no, that's not what happens when you are dying. I've been there. And when you're dying, you don't think about someone else's greatest disappointment to you. You think about your own failure. Sarek thinks he failed here in some way. Talk to him about that. And that's what eventually, she goes back in. She kicks Sarek's butt. He's got bright green tempera paint on him, all of a sudden.
Right. And
she's like, tell me the truth here, Dad. And it's like, okay, you made the cut. I'm the one who failed here.
Right. We think about our regrets maybe at our death, not about how others have failed us.
Yeah.
So
unless you're a psychopath.
Right. So meanwhile, Lorca.
I like also the Vulcan elder in with the expeditionary group that Sarek is talking to, because Sarek's trying to integrate Vulcans and human society. So he's got Spock and Michael as his kind of two test cases. And the Vulcan elder says that the introduction of humans into Vulcan society is laudable, so he's on board with it, but he says it must be titrated. And it's like, yes, nice use of the word titrate. Titration is what happens when you step up or down a medication slowly because it's too dangerous to do all at once. It's like if you're on heart meds and you need to change heart meds, or psych meds and you need to change psych meds. you don't want to just go cold turkey on or off these things. You want to step it up and step it down, and that's titration. So the Vulcan elder is saying, by all means, let's integrate humans into Vulcan society, but we got to do it a piece at a time or it's going to be too disruptive. So you can have one of your kids on the Vulcan Expeditionary Group, but just one for now.
Right. It's totally something a scientist would say. They would import that. Yep. Lorca ends up offering Burnham a post on the bridge. He basically says, "I'm rehabilitating you. You're back in." Although still no rank, not official Starfleet member.
Specialist.
Yeah, she's like sort of a consultant for now.
Well, specialist is a rank.
Is it still a rank in Starfleet?
I don't know. Maybe a non-com rank.
Yeah, it might be. It might be. Yeah, because we have things like that in the Army. But so it might be. But she's certainly outside the chain of command still. She won't get fully reinstated until the end of this season. So later on, she encounters Tilly, who's back running again, training for becoming a captain, I guess. And she says, "Tilly, I gave you bad advice. Find your own way to the captain's chair." And then Tilly says, "I have," but doesn't explicate it. What do you think? I have. I'm integrating my way with the advice that you gave me.
Or I'm just going to copy you.
Right. My own way is the way you have gone.
The way you so successfully got to the captain's chair.
Yes. Maybe she's not the best one to get advice from for how to become a captain in Starfleet. So I have a note here where the replicator again comments on green tea as a good source of nutrients and antioxidants, and I'm like, if the replicator is going to comment on the quality of my food choices, I'm going to go make food in my own quarters because I'm done with that. So Burnham, she goes to see Sarek in sickbay, and he's kind of off. He pushes her away. He doesn't want to confront what she now knows about him. And what does he say? She says, "We're family. We should talk to one another." He says, "Well, technically, I'm not. We're not blood related." And she says, "Yeah, nice try." Yeah. So he's like, I think it's one of those statements that if you don't know someone, it could really feel hurtful. But within a family situation, you kind of know how that how it's meant.
I think even in a family situation, that's hurtful. She's just got a jerky Vulcan dad.
Well, but it can be hurtful. But sometimes there are things that you can say among family that to other people or in other families it would be hurtful. But among you, it's a running gag, or you kind of know.
Yeah, but this isn't a running gag with them. I mean, she's asking him to open up about something really personal, and he's like, I'm not your father.
Right, I guess so. Yeah, he says, she says, "Help me understand what you did. It can make us grow closer." And she says, "That's what families do." He says, "Technically, we're not related." And she's, "You can do better than that one."
Yeah, I've got a piece of your Katra, Dad. Okay, you don't go there with me.
Right. So she says, "You always knew she couldn't be what Sarek needed her to be, but now she realizes he can't be what she needs either." Which, ouch.
Yeah, but she also says she's saying this to Ash Tyler, and it's like it's kind of liberating, actually.
Right.
I'm just not gonna get what I want from him, so I shouldn't even try, and I'll be happier not trying. Right.
Was it Tyler who says, "How's your Vulcan dad?" Or was that Tilly? I just thought that was a funny line. "How's your Vulcan dad?"
At least you didn't say, "Who's your Vulcan daddy?"
Yeah. So there's a very interesting exchange here between her and Tyler. She says, "All my life, the conflict inside me has been between logic and emotion, but now it's my emotions that are fighting. I think about him and I want to cry, but I have to smile, and I feel angry, but I want to love, and I'm hurt, but there's hope. What is this?" And Ash says, "It's just being human." And I just had to laugh because knowing who Ash is, who's not at all human.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. And then we end the episode.
We have a lot of irony in this episode with these people who aren't what they think they are or aren't who they're portraying themselves as being.
Yeah, I can imagine in that writer's room there was a lot of this going on. And, let's put this in there. Or let's put that in there.
Yeah, this episode is really a mirror funhouse of deception with these characters.
Right. Lots of in jokes, too, for later revelation. But so we end the episode with this Cornwell going to this Cancri 4, and she and the Cancrians? The Cancri, I think.
Elders of Cancri.
Yeah, they're betrayed by the Klingons, yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's taken captive, and Lorca, Saru's like, oh, she's been captive. Let's go rescue her too now. Just like we just rescued Sarek, break all the rules. And Lorca's like, oh, no, let's not rush in. We have to ask Starfleet for orders. And he thinks it might be a trap, he says. But, we know really why he's not rushing in, because she was going to take his ship away.
Yeah, because as she was getting ready to leave, she says, because he's made this appeal about this ship is all I have, and she says, when I get back, she doesn't want to just totally throw him under the bus. When I get back, we'll talk about how you step down and get help. And then maybe after you've gotten help, we can get you back to this ship, but no promises. Right. So she's still determined to get him out of the captain's chair on the Discovery. And so she then goes to Cancri 4, and it turns out this was all a trap to capture Sarek, but the Klingons are even happier to have this Federation admiral for some reason. And so they take her into custody, and Saru is the one, Mr. Cautious is the one who says to Lorca, hey, let's go and rescue her. And all of a sudden, and that kind of breaks with Saru's previous pattern of being super cautious, but Lorca says, nope, notify Starfleet, and if we are ordered, we will go get her. But, and suddenly he starts quoting Cornwell's own lines about, but the Discovery is bigger than this, and it can't be lost, and I'm not going to rescue her without authorization. So suddenly he's sounding like he's had a total conversion to Cornwell's point of view, like maybe he's being a good boy, to try to stay in command that way. So he can say when she gets back, hey, I did exactly what you would have wanted. And then as Saru is scratching his head leaving, we get a reverse camera angle on Lorca, and he's got a phaser stuck in his belt behind his back. So he and previously Cornwell had like, what, you are keeping a phaser by your bed? And it's like, okay, lots of people have had guns by their beds in history. I mean, that's not so unusual. But maybe answering the door in your Starfleet ship with a gun stuck in your back belt, that's a sign that there is something really wrong mentally going on.
Well, it's something you'd see in the Mirror universe, but not here. So it's another one of those clues that he's not who he says he is. There is one line he gives as Cornwell's getting on the shuttle to go to the ambush. He does tell her, "May fortune favor the bold, Admiral," which is an homage, by the way, to DS9 when Sisko says that fortune favors the bold. The writer of this episode said that specifically was.
Because it is a traditional saying as well, fortune favors the bold. Right.
So very interesting, a little bit of trivia there. So anything else, Jimmy, on this episode as we wrap it up?
No, I think that's it. It was a pretty fun episode.
Yeah, I mean, a lot. It's one of the better ones when you're rewatching it after having seen the whole season. If you're going to go back and watch something, this might be one of the ones to go back and rewatch, knowing what you know now. It's sort of a Sixth Sense sort of thing. Like, oh, that's what that, the movie The Sixth Sense. Now I understand. So, definitely I would recommend that if you haven't yet. So as we wrap things up, I do want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the secrets of Star Trek, including Nick R., Jamie N., Michael L., and Tony G. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the secrets of Star Trek and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. We'd also like to thank Victor Lambs, who edits this show for us every week. And so what do you all think of this episode of Discovery called Lethe? You can let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/trek or our Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or send us an email to trek@sqpn.com. We'll be back next time when we'll be discussing the original series episode, Balance of Terror. That's one of the best ones, I think. Yeah. Until then, Jimmy Akin, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of Star Trek.
Thank you, Dom, and live long and prosper.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Star Trek on StarQuest. And remember, don't apologize for excellence.